Hello and welcome. I'm very pleased to introduce you to my guest tonight. Abdul Wright is with me. Abdul recently was awarded the honor Minnesota Teacher of the Year for 2016. He is at Best Academy, where you work with 8th graders.
Yeah.
Sort of a notorious group for being a challenging age to teach. But congratulations and welcome to the set here.
Thank you very much, and it is an honor to be here.
You teach at Best Academy. Tell us just in a nutshell how you describe Best Academy to someone you might meet at a restaurant or on an airplane. How do you, it's a charter school.
Yes, how I would describe Best Academy as picture the school you went to, and that's us. We're a school full of educators who just strive to be better for our young people, who strive to make a difference. And I think that's the one thing that, regardless of what type of school we are, Best Academy is a school where we are serving our community. And I think that's the one thing that educators across the state do. And they serve our communities, they serve their young people. So.
And Best is one of the schools under the umbrella of the Harvest Prep.
The Harvest Network of Schools.
Correct.
And so we have single and dual gender programs. And so I teach an all boys class, an all girls class, and a mixed gender class of 8th graders.
And you teach?
I teach language arts.
Right, which that means literature, that means writing, both?
Yes, that means both of those components. So the reading, the writing, the speaking pieces, the critical thinking, which is the foundation of it all, the social skills, the character skills, you know. We want to embed as much into these young people as we possibly can.
In reading about you and seeing you briefly on television, it sounds like the value part of your work is very important to you.
Yes, it is, because I understand that for young people, especially for young people who are in those crucial age ranges between young teens and starting to question the world and realize a lot about themselves, that knowing who you are as a person is what's really going to get you through those tough times. If you know that adversity is part of the struggle, and if you don't compare yourself to other people, you're mostly concerned about comparing yourself to your own potential, and you keep your eye on that ball, reaching your own potential, doing everything with a great attitude, and trying your hardest every single day, I know that our young people will be great.
You just got the award about a week or 10 days ago.
Yes, ma'am.
How did you feel when you heard your name called out at the banquet?
I felt humbled, I felt honored, I felt blessed, I felt fortunate, and I just felt so many different things at once. I saw basically my whole life pass before my eyes. Yes, as far as like any mistake that I've ever made, all of my failures, all of my doubts, but I also saw all of the grace that people gave me. I saw all of the people who were there with me, for me, and there by my side when I didn't even want anyone to be by my side. I saw the humility that people approached me with. I saw the confidence that people instilled in me, and all of those experiences just culminated into a great moment. And to get on that stage and to see so many people supporting you, you just want to really strive to be deserving of that respect. I really strive to earn the respect of this position.
You've used the word respect a lot, and I want to talk more about that later. But you were the first male African-American teacher to get this award, the youngest, I believe, at 29.
Yes.
Am I right? And the only person who's gotten the award who comes from a charter school.
Yes, ma'am.
So all of that makes you a very unique honoree, doesn't it?
I think so. I think I'm unique in the sense that every single one of us is unique. You're unique. Every educator is unique. We all have a story. We all could be the first at something. We all could represent something. But the coolest thing about having this honor is being able to represent not just myself, not just African American males, not just young people, but all educators, all young people. I really want to be that voice. I really want to sit down and get into these classrooms, to get into these communities, to hear from our communities, to figure out what can we do to really unite each other together and bring about real actionable change.
Did you dream of being a teacher at some point in your life? Did you have a teacher that really made a difference in your life?
I never dreamt of being a teacher. No, I dreamt of making it to the NBA because to me that was the only way that I would become important. And I think along the line, as life kind of progressed, I got to high school. I had a really cool social studies teacher who not only was there for me and someone I can call on the weekends, but he was someone who gave me my first zero. He was someone who told me that if I wasn't going to try my hardest, then don't come to his class at all. And so for me, to see someone balance accountability with love and support, it was a really cool thing for me to see in my life.
So kind of tough love, as we sometimes use that phrase.
Yes, ma'am, tough love, but really real love.
What was his name, or what is his name?
His name is Matthew Boucher. Mr. Boucher, he was, I think he's now the principal over at Fairleigh Middle School.
Have you gotten to tell him about your honor?
I haven't gotten to tell him about this honor just because I haven't really called anybody. Like,
well, it's
hey,
not
guess
been
what?
very long either.
Yeah, I haven't gotten a chance to call him. But when I talk to him, I think I'm going to want to know more about him and like how is his year going and how are his students doing and just how is the position treating them and just thank him.
But he'll be so excited, I bet, to hear about this. You grew up in Chicago, and it sounds like it was kind of a tough childhood. Your mom was a single mom, and you have how many siblings?
Altogether, I have 8 brothers and 2 sisters that lived with my mom. We had 5 brothers and 1 other sister.
And at some point, she said, "This is a tough place to raise kids."
Yeah.
And decided to pick up and move to Minnesota?
Yeah, my mom had me when she was 16 years old. So she had, by the time my mom was 21, she had 3 kids. By the time she was like 25, she had 5. And so she grew up in gang violence. Her mom was, kind of not as supportive as she needed her to be at the time. And my mom said, if I'm going to do this by myself, I want y'all to be in the best environment possible. And we didn't understand that at the time, but I thank her for that.
How old were you when you moved then?
I was 13 getting ready to turn 14 years old.
So that's a hard age to leave your friends. What did you think about that move? I mean, were you digging in your heels and saying, I don't want to move?
Miss Mary, I hated that move. I did not want to move. I remember sitting in the car just crying like, I'll never forgive you and I'll never talk to you.
I bet, yeah.
Yeah, but looking back, it's the greatest thing she could have ever done for me, because I realized that when I was growing up, the people didn't have hope. And I would go back every summer, every year, and I would try to go back to that same neighborhood, and you would just see, oh, this person was killed, or this person's in jail, or this person dropped out, or this person has a kid. And whenever I go home, I just see such a lack of hope.
That's got to be so hard for you to witness or to see. I remember I talked to a young man once who on television here who said, I don't think I expected when I was growing up in similar experience, I don't think I expected to live past 25. He said that's just how we, kind of viewed the future. And it sounds like it was similar for the people in Chicago where you grew up.
Yes, ma'am. You grow up with a survivor's mentality. And I think that that's for anyone who comes from an environment where they're not instilled with a sense of high expectations or a sense of belief. You grow up just trying to make it through the day, or you go through the days just trying to make it through the day. And I think that that's something that resonates with people of all backgrounds, of all socioeconomic statuses, of all genders, is that we just want to make it, and we want to know that there's somebody out there that believes in us, that sees us working hard. It's not necessarily for the accolades or for somebody to say you're doing a great job, but it's just to know that you know that I exist and that I'm here.
Was there ever a time, Abdul, that you didn't want to graduate from high school, that you thought, I don't need to get an education?
There wasn't ever a time when I thought that I didn't want to graduate high school, because basketball in high school was such a big part of my life. And so I was always that kid in the classroom that the teacher said, you're different, you're talented. So I got to see both worlds. In high school, I was in AP classes, but I was barely passing them. But I was also in general education classes and really failing those. I was a summer school kid. I think my GPA in high school was barely over a 2.0. But
You just got your master's degree now, though, didn't you, this week? Congratulations.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much.
But so it was touch and go then.
It was touch and go.
In terms of your sense of the future in terms of education, huh?
Yes, because if the teacher didn't really have high expectations for me, it was like, okay, well, I'll just do this and get by, and that'll be enough. But like I said, teachers like Mr. Boucher, they were the beginning of changing my outlook on my mindset.
So who got you sort of pushed into going to college, or did you yourself make that big decision?
I did that on my own.
Okay.
I kind of just started looking at colleges my senior year of high school, and it was really in the second half of the school year when you start to see other people talking about what colleges they're going to and things like that. And it was like, I had no clue where I was going. I didn't know anything about an ACT. I didn't realize the importance of a GPA. I thought you could just apply and you would go. In fact, the day that I actually left for college, my mom didn't even know that I had left for college.
Oh, really?
I just kind of like up and went.
And where did you go at first to college?
I went to Minnesota West in Worthington, Minnesota.
And you were telling me before we started taping that there was a woman in Worthington that really took you under her wing.
Yeah, that's my mom.
Or you adopted her.
Yeah, I adopted her, and she knows it. Her name is Kim Soderholm. Then I really didn't understand the importance of all of my choices. But she was somebody who stood by me, who said, I'm not going to let you fail. God isn't going to let you fail. And he put me in your life for a reason. And we're going to get through this. And I'm not going to let you get through this alone.
How did you meet Kim?
I met her because, again, I was playing basketball there. And so in order to get the students and the athletes acclimated to the town, you have a adopted basketball family. She wasn't my basketball family. It was just through being around her energy that I slowly gravitated towards her. And I would try to stay at her house later when she would make a big dinner for the whole team, or I would stay at her house when she would invite us over to watch a game. And just through conversing with her, I slowly but surely started to really find a deep connection to her that transcended anything.
So knowing her was a turning point, it sounds like.
Of course.
Moving from Chicago is a turning point.
Of course.
A lot of turning points when we look back, aren't there?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you think your experience to this point has really impacted your teaching?
Of course. I think one thing that I try to do in my life, more so over the last 4 years, more than any time ever, is be aware and to reflect and to appreciate. The more aware I am of everything that I'm doing, of everything that I get to experience, I get to appreciate it that much more. I get to understand the importance of my choices and the decisions that I'm making. And when I'm understanding the importance of them, I kind of move with more purpose, and I serve more deeply, and I appreciate and care with much more intensity.
Can you give an example, just an everyday example of working to build this awareness?
Yeah, we could even look at today. This Saturday, right? I just graduated with my master's. And so Sunday, I just wanted to relax. But then I also knew that I wanted to do this interview with you. And so what I wanted to do was, look, I have an opportunity. I have an opportunity to spend 30 minutes with an amazing person. And if I'm gonna get to 30 minutes with an amazing person and get to speak to such a broad audience, I wanna do my research. So I woke up from a nap yesterday and I just started looking up different articles, looking up different issues that impact the educators across our state, looking at different experiences that young people are facing, looking at past interviews that you've done. And I woke up today, like, now I get to go do what I love to do.
I'm ready.
Yeah.
Okay, so making the most of your time, being purposeful, good things to do and good things to help other young people do.
Yes, ma'am. I want to be deserving of my time here. Like, this is a brief time. It's limited. And so I want to understand how precious it is. And I can only do that by respecting it. And that's by acting and just gaining and acquiring more knowledge.
What do you think, as a teacher with 8th grade kids, what do you think is the hardest part of your teaching?
Consistency. I would think the hardest part of my job is to be consistent. I think anybody can love something temporarily. I think anybody can believe in something temporarily or short term, but to have the consistency and the determination behind your belief and the determination behind giving those young people love when they're being rude to you, they're being disrespectful to you, they're not turning in their homework, they don't understand why they have to read this part of this Shakespeare play, they don't understand what a couplet is, they hate poetry, and then sometimes they can be really irritated with me, and I have to be consistent in my love. I have to be consistent in my accountability.
So patience is part of it, right?
Patience is a huge part of it.
I know some teachers, and they have left teaching because of burnout, as they call it.
Yeah.
And I think part of what's been hard for so many people is the discipline part. And it sounds like you have that too. You've got to deal with that.
Yes, I do have to deal with it. That's a major issue in educators across the state, is realizing how do I develop this relationship with these young people, but also hold them to a high academic standard without damaging a relationship. Educators
That's a fine line, Abdul, isn't it?
It is. Educators across the state, they don't want to suspend students. They don't want to kick kids out their classroom. They want those children to feel loved. They want to make a connection with these young people. Now it's just more about how do we do that? And they're striving every single day. Even teachers who don't look highly upon themselves after a day, they're trying. And that's the one thing I try and tell teachers in my building when they're crying in their classroom or when they're breaking down and they see my room and they're like, you may not understand. I'm like, I do. That's me too. That's me too. You know.
Do they look at you though and say, you somehow have made it work in a way that I'm having trouble getting through to my kids?
They used to, and then I tell them, just spend an entire day with me. You know, like
you don't know all of it.
Exactly. Spend an entire day, and they're like, you know what? We're on the same page.
Okay. Well, that's probably helpful for them to see that you too have trouble with some of the kids.
Of course, I have trouble with my babies because I love them so deeply, and you just want the best for them. It's like a parent. Like you want to give them the world, but you want them to know how precious the world is. And so teaching them how precious something is while also giving it to them is such a fine thing to do.
How long have you been at Best?
I've been there my entire teaching career, so for the last 5 years.
Okay. Have you had some kids that you were scared to death about in terms of their future, and you've seen good things happen?
Of course. Of course. I think that's what I really experienced my first couple of years, was watching some young men or some young ladies who I thought were making some bad decisions and just making assumptions about where they would end up if they continued on their track. But somewhere along the line, something that educators said to them, something that I said, their parents, someone else may have said in their life, slowly helped them mature and become more aware of their own importance. And you know, I thank God for those moments.
I interviewed Sandra Samuels a couple times, and you may have heard of her. She's the woman who's the head of the Northside Achievement Zone.
Yes, I do. I'm aware of her. I've actually been fortunate enough to sit in and listen to her speak a couple of times.
Okay. So you know some of her work, and she's really working to have families more involved. And that's a big challenge. Are you finding that families with the Best Academy in your work are not as involved as you'd like? Do you have any ideas for involving them more? Do you think it's crucial as Sandra does?
To answer those questions,
I think boom, boom, boom.
No, that's perfectly fine. I think it's very crucial to have family engagement in our schools and in our communities. The second point is, do I think that what does it look like at our school? I think it's not ideally where we would want it to be, but I also know some of the factors that impact that. A lot of our young people come from homes where parents have to work 2 or 3 jobs. And so they really depend on us to be that extra support system for them. They rely on us to serve their young people the way they would. I think that the majority of the parents at Best Academy and at schools where parent engagement is not high, I think a lot of them would love to be be there. Some of these parents could be going through a lot of different things, a lot of different traumatic experiences. Some of these parents have needed to cope in ways that maybe they shouldn't have coped. And, you know, they're starting to learn their own importance as well. One thing I try and tell my young people is that just because you're young, it doesn't mean that you may not have insight or a certain type of wisdom that your parent may lack. But that doesn't mean you should judge them for it. That means you should be there and be their support system the way you want them to be your support system. Sometimes it doesn't happen the way we want it to happen, but it's happening, and to be aware of it and to love and use your strengths where you have them.
So kind of the role reversal at times, right?
Exactly, at times, but never losing that respect for your parent. Always respect your parent as your parent, but love them.
That's a big challenge for a young person, but I hear what you're saying, and I bet kids really appreciate hearing that, because I'm sure it resonates with a lot of them.
Yeah, it does. And sometimes it hurts them too, because they want to know that, you know, why they have this question, why me? Why do I have to be so strong?
Why do I have to be a parent to my parent sometimes?
Exactly. And sometimes I just tell them, like, it's because you have to. Sometimes there's no answer to that. You just have to have faith and just do everything to the best of your ability. So this again is where what happens in the classroom transcends into life, and it's more than just the classroom.
And that's too where I'm guessing your experiences going through some of that are so transferable, and you can identify then with the kids.
Yes.
In a way that if you had a really easy upbringing, you maybe wouldn't be so effective, right?
Yeah, I think, I don't think many people have a very easy upbringing, regardless of where you come from. But to your point, it is something that resonates with me, with my young people, is the fact that I know what my experience has been like. My mother and I had times where we didn't speak for years. An entire year, she and I went without talking. When I graduated college and my dad wasn't there, he emailed me a month later and said, "You didn't wish me happy Father's Day, don't talk to me anymore." And now I'm proud to say that I know that I have stronger relationships with them than I ever had at any time in my life.
Wow.
And it's because that sometimes that's what they need from me.
Wow. So right now you're on good terms with both your dad and your mom.
Yes, ma'am.
I hadn't heard about your dad till now, but
Yeah.
so he was someone that was in your life to some degree when you were growing up?
Yes, to a certain degree when I was younger. My dad went to prison when I was young, and so when he got out, he really didn't know what to do with us and kind of how to interact with us.
You'd grown up.
Yeah, and I was just like, he just wanted me to be disciplined. And so, you know, I think more than anything, what I try and tell him, because he feels bad about not being there for my childhood, and he never tries to take any credit, but I tell him, like, you helped hold me accountable. You helped me understand what accountability means, because if my little sister or brother did something, it was me who was going to get in trouble for that.
Are you the oldest, Abdul?
I am the oldest.
You are.
Yes.
So I was thinking about position in family, and so often it's the oldest who becomes a real leader.
Yes.
Maybe out of necessity, but both good and bad, I think, in terms of family experiences. How about your siblings now and their relationship with you and how they view your big honor?
My brothers and sisters, for the most part, they tell me that they look at me like their only role model or their father figure in their life. And I try to keep a close relationship with them and care for them. It's just kind of tougher now since I have a family of my own that I'm establishing.
You said 3 daughters.
Yes, 3 beautiful girls.
5, 4, and 3.
Yes,
am I right?
ma'am.
Yeah,
yes, ma'am.
5, 4, 3.
And so I try to be there as much as I can for my brothers and sisters, and just try to give them a model of excellence to the best of my ability to, you know, aspire to.
We only have 5 minutes left, but
Wow.
I want to ask you about any thoughts you have on how this is a big question.
Yeah.
Are you ready?
Yes, ma'am.
How our educational system could be improved overall, not just at best, but are we doing things that you think as a young educator that we should be really looking at hard and rethinking?
Yeah, I do. I actually think that in the state of Minnesota, we're doing a lot of good things. First and foremost, we're actually having a conversation about the important issues that are impacting educators across the state. A huge issue that has come about recently is this issue of broadband access. There are over 244,000 households in the state of Minnesota who have no access to broadband internet connectivity. That is mind-blowing to me. Yeah. And most of those families and most of those households are in the greater metro area. So this is in areas like Farmington or Windham, Minnesota. And those families don't have access to internet. So how can they actually be being put in a position to be college ready, to be ready for this global society? What about early childhood care in the inner city or in the metro area? We have a lot of families who can't afford daycare. And so to us, that's impacting the quality of living, because now families are either forced to go to a lower quality daycare, consequently their child receiving a lower quality education starting out, which means they're not as ready to enter the classroom, or it means that one parent has to sacrifice working, which means that family's income is also depreciated.
So those are real important issues, aren't they?
Yes, ma'am.
Very, very important. I'm getting the signal that we should give a website for Best Academy. Mm-hmm. Do you want to just tell us what it is, and we'll put it on the screen?
Yes, the website for Best Academy is thebestacademy.org.
Thebestacademy.org.
Yes,
mm-hmm. Okay. Well, we have like 1 minute left, I believe. In the last minute, is there something you'd like to tell young people who are maybe kind of unsure of how much they want to commit to studying, to learning, pulled by a lot of maybe social and family things? What would you say to that young person who might be listening hard right now?
Don't compare yourself to anyone else. Compare yourself to yourself. Work hard every single day, have a good attitude, and understand that the results may not always be what you want, but they will be the results that are what is meant to be in order for you to be successful in life.
I like that. Don't compare yourself. That's really important, don't you think?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, that's great. Well, thank you so much, Abdul, for coming down. And I'm so happy for your big honor, and I can see why you got it, and I'm just thrilled you're one of our educators here in Minnesota. We're very lucky to have you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for joining Abdul and I. I'll be back again next week. Until then, have a good week.